G'day everybody, welcome to another edition of Kev's Workshop. I'm Big Kev, unless you can hear me anyway. These carriages here, originally through Lloyd's Bottle Railways back in the 90s, $160 is what the 6-car set cost me. These are the L series coaches, or coaches either way. As you can see, they've got a yellow line above and below the windows. These were originally on the New South Wales Government rail system. There goes me messages. But yeah, these were used on different trains as a 6-car set, permanently coupled. So you had drawbars between each carriage, coupling on each tail end coach. This particular set, look at it up close here. You've got 2 HFL terminal cars, 1 FL second class, 2 BL first class cars, and 1 RFL, which is the buffet car. The only difference between this and the R car set is the classification. On the R car set, it would be HFR, FR, BR, and RFR. So at least in the set, when we look at them, they are very much the same as what was used in the movie called The Steam Train Passes. In the movie, this is a scene which I've printed up of 3801 pulling the R cars through a sectional line, which I think is out near Chumala Bank area. Don't know why some people call it Tumala, but anyway. There's another shot out near George's Plains. This film was actually done by Film Australia back in the mid-70s, and you can see here, as we come in a bit closer, the appearance of the carriages. And another couple of scenes from the movie which I've done a freeze frame of. Set 109. So that's the set that was used in the movie Steam Train Passes. And you see here the line above and below the window. If we look a bit further down, we can see the tail end of set 109. And again, the only visible real difference you'll notice is the vestibule on the end of the HFR. So even though I'm doing the L set and R sets are virtually identical to look at. I believe there's some interior details which are different, like the way the seating's set up and a few other bits and pieces. And there is a calendar shot. I don't know who took the photo. New South Wales 36 class on the front, and you've got, sitting behind it, is an R set of carriages. Actually, no, sorry, these would be the L's by the looks of it. As I say, they're very difficult to check the differences between, but this is what I've been working on for a while in HO scale. So, slight change of camera shot, I'll show you what they look like. Okay, here's the HO scale L cars. Each carriage has to be assembled, the bogies have to be assembled, and all underfloor detailed. So, it's a white metal kit with wooden roofs and wooden floors. All the torpedo vents on the roof, they're all cast white metal, and you have to mark and drill the position of every one of them. And there's quite a fair few. I'm trying to get this as realistic as I can and as correct as I can. You see here on the front of the HFL, there is no end vestibule. The end vestibules were actually apparently one of the modifications with the terminal end car, like this one. As I come around, you'll notice this one, I've actually got the windows in it. The rest of the carriages haven't been done just yet at this point, so part of today's video is to show you a little bit about how to achieve that. These white windows, for those who don't know, that's where the toilet was, and usually they're diagonally opposite on the New South Wales carriages. As you can see from this point, the underfloor detail, they're all white metal. They've got to be marked, drilled, glued in place, and so on. And yes, near the rear bogie there's a generator hanging down. What I might do a bit later on is put a simulated drive band from the axle to make it look like it's actually turning the generator. These cars originally came out in the 50s, used all the way through to the late 60s, early 70s. As you can see, this one here I haven't done the window glazing yet. And if you look at what's involved in the kit, the vestibules which are here, which I'll just zoom in on, they are plastic, but even though they're glued in place, and you can't see the coupling too well, but what I've done, I've removed the white metal couplings and put a drawbar in, which if I zoom in, whoops, there we go, sorry about that folks, the camera doesn't want to focus now, but I'll use a bit of wire as a drawbar, so that way these sets are coupled as in pairs. Yes, there is a height difference because I've only just put the bodywork back on, that is for the HFL, which is this one, and I haven't put it on properly yet. So with that, you can see the detail under one of the BL cars. And again, the toilet windows are diagonally opposite. So you've got into here, toilet at this end, and diagonally opposite at the other end. You notice this vestibule is done slightly different. Another part of today's video is more so that of doing vestibules. Because I'd lost one of them somewhere recently, don't know what I've done with it, but again the idea is in here you try and make them look as realistic as possible. They're dead simple to make. Any railway enthusiasts out there, railway modelers, like to give it a shot, not a drama. I'll be taking the bodies off these set of carriages very soon. I'm still trying to get the window glazing done. You notice how the BL doesn't have the underfloor detail. I don't understand why that was, but that's part of the design. We get to the restaurant buffet car, the RFR, or in this case the RFL, and there is a bit of detailing underneath, and again on top. And you see this has got the gap in there. What I intend doing later on is putting a vestibule between those two to make it look like it's a connected unit. As I come through, you can see here the other couplings, they're the white metal jobs that are supplied, and again the toilet windows on the end of the left hand carriage and diagonally opposite on the right hand carriage. So front right, rear left. And as we get to the other end of the train, that's the FL by the way, and then the other HFL. So again, you get to see the underfloor details. They're a beautiful running unit. I am hand holding my camera today for a change. And hopefully you get to see some of this detail that's on the end. Okay, now with my camera on the tripod, you can have a better view of all this, even though it's from a bit of a distance. And out of the 4-car set, this is sitting on a module which is 4 foot long, or 1.2 meters in length. Oh boy. Now it's only on a 1 foot wide module, or 305mm, and the backdrop is roughly around 305mm or 1 foot in height. But because this is a recessed part of the layout, it's a little bit over. It's about more than 150mm thereabouts. But that's how the 6-car set looks from a distance. I'm hoping you'll like the way that these carriages are coming up. At this point, with one body removed, just to show you the wooden floor that's in underneath. If I bring the body in, you can see there, wooden roof on it, white metal sides, brass steps, and the truss work is using 0.5mm wire. It was supplied with brass wire, but for some reason it just kept snapping. But this will give you an idea of the internal construction of the carriage. And you can look at it from the end. Whoops, here we go. You can actually see on the ends here we've got grab rails on the ends of the carriage door detail, etc. So the buffers are white metal as well, yes. The only parts plastic are the vestibules. Now because I'm missing one of these off over here, I'll put it in the way. You see I'm missing the vestibule here. I've actually made up one. I might say how. Well, it's quite easy. A piece of black, very thin cardboard or thick paper, and this black blob is the actual vestibule that I've made up. That's what you could see a moment ago in a previous shot. If I can get all this done, sort of see here, put my hand in behind. Just paper, or thick paper, thin cardboard. It's folded. What I've done, get the light onto this for you. Bit of cotton. Punched 2 holes through with a fairly thick needle. So I've done the top and bottom. Fed the cotton, well, should I say, glued a bit of cotton to the end. Fed it through the bottom. Comes out the bottom. Oh, my finger's in the way here. Comes out the bottom. Through to the top. Fed back through the top holes. And then from the top holes it's just put to a point where it's going to be open enough to be a bit bigger than the gap between the carriages. And then once I've got it right, glue it, trim off the excess. So that will end up getting glued onto the end of this carriage. Down in here are the 2 white metal couplings, whereas in here I've got the metal drawbar. The idea of doing this is in pairs, so that when it gets set up on a layout, wherever I take it to, whether it's on this layout or anywhere, at least I know the carriages will be in the right configuration. And at least between carriages 1 to 6, I've got all numbered under the floors, so I say, right, this is the correct order for them to be in. So also transportation wise, when they're in the box, if they're in pairs, you just pull them out in pairs. But just to display, yep, there we go. You can separate, and when you're ready, get things right. Connect that on. Get this re-railed as well. They are a beautiful rolling set. Even though they've got white metal bogies which have to be assembled, they all come with Romford brass axle ends, so the bearings I should call them. Therefore they're all absolutely beautiful. Okay, with the kit comes a sheet of clear plastic to get the light reflecting off it. And basically I've already cut out a section for windows. So with that I've also got a piece of ordinary paper that comes out of a printer. So if you've got printing work to be done on your computer, if you've got any excess left over, let's keep some aside for doing toilet windows. That's what this is going to be used for. To illustrate that in the best possible way, at 20mm, so you've got 20mm height, at least you know you're going to have plenty enough no matter which way you go with it. But the toilet window is basically going to be that. So obviously they're not all going to be toilet windows, it'll be just this end one. But to achieve that, first things first, clear plastic. You can use a fine pen, you can use just about anything you need, that'll do the job. But if I mark it at 20mm or 2cm, at least I know these 2 points, I can go through it and get it cut correctly. Each of these carriages on the R's and even on the L's, they're not all the same length. They are roughly a scale 45 or 47 scale feet in length. So I've just realised where I'm marking marks in the wrong spot. Doesn't matter, stuff ups happen. So basically, the easiest thing to do is mark it so that you've got plenty of window. I'm doing the internal length, corner to corner, and then where the door goes, it'll end up being slightly different. Right, I shall redo my markings, so it's all stuffed up. Redo this again, 20mm, 20mm, don't need to mark it all the way through. At this point here, got a box cutter, carton cutter. As long as you've got a nice sharp blade and a hard surface to work on, as hard as in firm, not hard as in difficult. Several slices along the plastic till you're all the way through, and small square, or right angle square, whatever you want to call it. Line this on the edge of my board. Several slices later. Oh, come on through. You get the general idea. If you don't want to stuff around with using a knife, a decent pair of scissors will do the job too. Thank you. So now we're left with a strip of plastic 20mm wide by the length of the carriage. So with that, I will be needing to do, I know it's going to be a bit of a tight fit, so the marker pin comes back into it. All I need is for this to behave itself and do what I need it to do. I'm going to cut a notch out so I know A, the top, and which end the window goes, should the windows come out at any time. That's where it's going to be easier with this pair of scissors. Let's trim this up a little bit better than I did. Takes a little time and patience, but you'll get there. There are people out there who feel that they can model better than I can. That doesn't bother me one bit. What does bother me are those people that we call rivet counters. People say, oh, you haven't got enough rivets here, enough rivets there, or too many here, too many there. It's like, dude, I don't care. As long as it represents within at least 90 to 95% of what it's supposed to be, then I don't care. Right, that's got it. So, the notch cut out on this corner, don't know if you can see that at all, you might not, but whoops, there you go. You might be able to get the chance of it somewhere amongst all that. That notch is going to go into this top corner of the carriage, which I hope you can see. I certainly can't. Don't worry, I don't take myself seriously. Hardly take myself anywhere actually. Hopefully someone out there is having a smile. Pair of trusty tweezers. And because these doors on the casting are recessed, I'm having to put a recess into the window line. There is another way of doing things. That's cutting the door window completely, so you got it in 3 sections rather than 1. I prefer to do it in 1 piece if I can. Now the thickness of my square, thickness of my ruler, they're both the same thickness thankfully. By lining it up on the square, I'll just put this on the correct side of it. To illustrate, if you can't see it, if you can't make out what I'm doing, try to state it, I'm coming up this side and across. So I'm coming over the top edge of that. If I put that in there as well, we know this has got to be a nice 90-degree fold. And it's basically making a simple letter Z type of thing. So what you may or may not be able to see, comes down, through and comes out. If you can't get the fold quite correct, knock that over. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. Move that out of the way a minute. So basically, despite the little slight glitch there, one camera battery decides to itself, nah, bugger. Okay. So once you've got your notch so you know where you're working, you get your first Z fold, pop that back in. And by the way, I've changed the camera position, as you'll notice in that little bit, hopefully so you can see clearer what I'm doing. Because I've already gone that way, I need to come down this way. I'm using the right angle to make sure my folds are square on. And again, I'll use my steel rule in conjunction with my square. And drop everything at the same time perhaps, without dropping my lunch or my guts, either way. Some people understand that joke, some won't. If I've done this correctly, I'll end up exactly what I want and need from this bit of plastic. And when you're finished doing something like this, just double check that you got your 90-degree bends all the way through. I don't know if you can actually see that. You might not, so let me just outline this for you a little. Sometimes looking through a camera at something that's transparent can be hard to see. So hopefully you might be able to see that. All that little recess is for is to go through the doorway. Notches there, so it goes the right way in. And absolutely awesome, it fits as predicted, well, expected at least. Now, the toilet window on this carriage is going to be this end on that side, diagonally opposite this side. So if I mark a spot so wide, and I go, actually yeah, I can go right to the end of the clear plastic. That's not a drum at all. So, with that in mind, a strip of paper goes on top of the clear plastic. With that I can mark a spot. See where I've got a notch in the one corner, so I know my windows are going to be the right way around. By the time I mark a 90-degree line onto it, what I can actually do, for those of you who find it a little difficult doing this stage of things, and this will apply to any other carriages that you might be working on. It doesn't have to be purely Australian, it could be any state of Australia, it could be any country in the world. If you're looking at modifying some production run carriages, or you're doing scratch built carriages, either way, this is a method you can use for doing toilet windows. And so I folded that back on itself. Now you can use a pair of scissors to do this job, but I'm going to use an old trusty knife, only because down here is sharper than up there. If I fold it back on itself, I know it's going to be a 90-degree cut. Pull it through. Once I've pulled it through, I'm left with a rectangular piece of paper, roughly 20mm high by the width that I need. That will get glued on the plastic in its position. You may not be able to see that in this shot, so oops, I'll turn this around for you and lose it every time. And I just lost it. Bad joke anyway. So you can sort of see that's where I'm going with it. So when it comes around the other side, the toilet window will be in. Now as long as your paper's nice and clean, it won't look too shabby. So what I'm about to do, and this is the easiest perhaps way to do it, generally with white paper you find the cleanest side if you can. If I run a bit of super glue along the top and come up a little bit from the bottom, because if I have to come to the point of moving it or peeling it off for any reason, I can. Stuff I'm using is a Loctite control glue. In Australia it's available from Bunnings and comes with a complete little lid. It's supposed to clear the nozzle on the way through. So if I do this correctly, I'll place this little window in my carriage. Only reason is because I can run the top edge to the roof. The top edge to the roof. I can put the paper in there. Again, use my retractable knife. Press it down with the knife. That way my fingers are not getting stuck to the super glue. Those of you who have already tackled this sort of thing before, you'll find this dead easy. Those tackling this for the first time might find it a bit difficult, but you will get used to that. So you can see the carriage where it's coming up. And let me just adjust my camera slightly. There we go. And then as we rotate over, you see the eventual idea of the window. If I put my fingers there to hold the glazing in place, you might get to see the reflection of the plastic glass. So from a carriage, or in this case this particular kit, there's no windows, you can see that when I get the light reflecting off it. But the end result, once the windows are glued in, you've got your window glazing as well. So prior to completing this, these windows are only going to be basically tacked in for now, but I've got to put a clear coat over the top of all this paintwork just to protect the paintwork. The silver paint is aerosol can paint from what we call super cheap here in Australia. Aerosol silver, the class is chrome, but it's more frosted silver if anything. The paint on the carriage is Rayleigh Paint, and with Rayleigh Paint it's the Indian red. I've got some deep Indian red as well, which is slightly darker, it's more chocolate colour. But at least with that, I'm using Rayleigh Paint. I'm also using Humbrol paint for the matte black, and Revell will do the same job as well. And then the yellow lining is Humbrol 69 gloss yellow. Now if I could be bothered getting the decals or having decals printed up, then that would have all been done by decal work. The yellow one along the top of the window edge should be done as a decal. So once I've got all that done, these carriages will be complete. I've got to put the classification on the carriage on what's called the letterboard, which is the area above the window and between the window and the roofline area. So these have matchboard sides, which is matchboard is basically a description for wood panelling type of situation where you've got planks about so wide. Say for example, we're talking about 9-inch wide per plank. It's a bit like tongue groove floorboard type of situation. And the ends of the carriage also have this matchboard to it as well. So we get the light reflection in on here. Yeah, you might be able to see it in that shot. So I'll get at that angle. How's that? Now these are beautiful carriages, especially in real life. And if I just put this to one side, I'll let the window glazing come out. No, it's going to partly stay there. I'm just going to grab for you something else of interest. A good friend of mine is into 3D printing. He does all his own 3D artistry. So because of a lot of the work he's done, there's a HFL, or RFL I should say, but in N scale. Now this is all fully 3D printed. I'm going to try to get this lighting onto it for you. See all the matchboard on that? So I can come a bit closer for you. And this is really the art in 3D printing. So when you can get the details. And this is off a Resin 3D printer that my mate has. He's got a couple of filament printers. He's now got himself 2 Resin 3D printers. And again you can see the matchboard on the end of the carriage. And if I tilt it around a bit, see the matchboard on the side of the carriage. This is the sort of level of detail you can get with 3D printing. Now, my mate John, who done this for me, and this is actually painted, I should say, with the Rayleigh Indian red. So that'll give you an idea. But I've got 2 sets of these in N scale, and by comparison, if I put the RFL with the N.S.W.G.R, that's not the RFL, sorry, that's a HFR I should say, so the HFR with the N.S.W.G.R, you can sort of see what I'm trying to achieve, because these will be painted exactly like this, but with the two yellow lines, one above and one below the windows. What I've got here in elastic band form, they're all the chassis for me R cars. Now, to try illustrate 2 complete sets, and in my box, if I can pull them all out, well not all of them, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 R cars. I've got 2 sets, so it makes it I've got 12. Why 2 sets, you might ask? Because I'm doing them in 2 different colour schemes. Now, Resin 3D printing. This is prior to being painted. They're a beautifully detailed set, and these have been done for me and also for Sal. So I'll get this on close to the camera and just right, if the camera will focus in. You sort of see there, for resin 3D printing, not bad. If I can turn this around without dropping it. You see all the matchboard effect, all the windows, everything. Now what I will have to do is all the roof vents along each of the roofs on all 12 cars. So it'll be out of the 2 individual sets. Now what I will also have to do is put the vestibules in on the end, even though they should have doorways on the end of these carriages. Slight oversight, but that's easily altered in AutoCAD or whatever program he's using. So all you need to do is basically copy one of these side doors, put it on the drawing on the end, 3D print with a door on the end. But for end scale I'm not worrying, that'll give you an idea. So that's one unpainted, and then if I can pick this one up, it's one painted in Indian red. So that'll give you some idea. And you see that I've got the full 6 car set, and each of these are basically the same sort of detail. Matchboard across all ends, should have vestibules on both ends. And yeah, if I was to pull the RFL out, or the RFR, this will give you an idea. That's a dining car, buffet car. Oh, I knew I'd do that. Brilliant. What a knob. But anyway, that's me I'm talking about. So yeah, basically you can sort of see the details. So there's a few minor modifications to be done, certainly in the window lines. So oh, there we go. Let's see. Oh, not the RFL at all. However, so basically 2 sets of them, 2 lots of floors. Yes, they are curled at the moment. Don't worry about things like that, because once they get put onto the chassis, you can actually straighten them up. You can also soften them up with a hairdryer, I'm told, and you can also put them in some warm water to flatten them out. So I'm not really too worried, but this is a future project for my collection. So they will be nice. I've got New South Wales Government Rail stuff, or N.S.W.G.R stuff in N, so this will go in with that collection. That'd be right. Everything springs where I don't want it to. So, despite me sort of being in the background a minute, put these away, just to show. There's the 2 sets in a box. So if you wish to model Australian, that's great. There's a few places you can do it. If you want these specifically, go to my Kev's Workshop website. While you got YouTube channel open, while you're looking at via whatever browser you're using, open up a second tab, search for Kev's Workshop, which is my website. Once you've found my website, go through to my current projects page and see what I'm doing or have done. And then the next part of it is go into my links page. In my links page you go to the top and you'll find modelling by John Rumming, and he's the one who's doing the 3D prints for me. So That's the HR scale carriage at least. When it comes to vestibules, I already showed you a little bit. There's my sheet of black card on thick paper. All I do is same as like my windows. I cut a strip to the height that I need. Measure the width of the diaphragm area. Mark that as my first one. Do a first fold. Then I'll come back again and make the next one slightly smaller. Then every fold thereafter in the zigzag form is the width of the door. Now to illustrate that hopefully in another way, bear with me a minute while I search for it. I've done an article. Here we go, there's what I'm looking for. Knew I'll put it somewhere safe. I've done a complete article on this. So if I move that to one side, move all this to one side. Alright, so I've done a complete article on this. If you email me via my Kev's Workshop website, go to the contacts page. I can send you this in digital form, just as an email. This will outline what I've done. This is in N.S.W.G.R using some New South Wales BS or FS series carriages. Alright, there's a quick picture of how I've done it. This particular point here, I use ordinary paper, coloured it black, and it works and does the same job as the black cardboard. So that one there is just the reverse side, but once you do it both sides, you can do it with black outline texture, or you can paint it either way. Choice is yours. Black cardboard's easier. And then there's the rest of the article on the second page. Shows roughly what I've done, what measurements I used, and what tools I use. So if you're liking any of this bit of video, yeah, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. If you're watching this on 24trains.tv, you can go to my Loco Man 3801 channel, and you can pick it up on there as well. And hopefully I will have inspired somebody to do something. Happy modelling, peoples!